Well, for anybody that watches this channel, you've probably seen this old junk knuckle boom, this pile of wood over here at a place that I rent. And when I tried out my tree spear before I brought it onto a job, I had to test it, for a while. I had to run it for like an hour before I hauled it off to the job so that I wouldn't drop it off at the job and find out, hey, it don't work. So I cleared this patch right here. I rent this property. Me and the guy that live here have an agreement. I traded him some dirt work down back in exchange for me being able to clear and use this front section. And I thought I was going to clear it out for piling logs in a sort of a concentration yard type of a setup. But recently, the harvest that I'm working on has grown in scope to the point where we're pretty certain that knuckle boom is going to go live over there, because it's going to have to load several semis. And so I'm laying out the job over there for a much larger scale. And this is a rough place, so putting really high value logs down here, maybe not the wisest choice, number one. Number two, I would have to fill this whole thing with rock to be able to use it. And number three, you can see a burned out house over there. I used to grow sorghum on that with permission. The fellow that owned it died. His widow is selling the place. So I've lost my little nearby summertime food plot that I usually chop off by hand. Every other day or so I go over there with a garden tractor and a trailer. I fill up the trailer and I bring it back for feed for the goats and pigs. So this is right next door to me. I'm one parcel back that way. And honestly, I could put an electric pen in here and graze it instead of me having to harvest it if that suited my needs. So what I'm going to do right now before the cool season ends, where I probably still have a good window left to frost seed. We've got a few weeks of warm weather. We've got tons of moisture in the ground right now. We've had a solid week of rain, but I think that we're probably going to have a couple more freeze ups, and that freezing creates these little ice stalactites that rise up out of the ground, and then they draw back in and they wick seeds back into the ground pretty well. And I've got this pile of seed right here that I've paid for. It's sitting in a shed. It's not doing nothing. I thought right now is probably the time. I know I'm going to lose a lot of it to birds. I'm going to sow a bunch of stuff that a lot of it's not going to grow. A lot of it's going to get ate. A lot of it's not going to get good seed soil contact because I just don't have the time to put into rolling it. If my kid didn't blow the quad up, I would drag the roller around behind to get it packed. But what are you going to do? I mean, I've already paid for the seed, and all it's going to do is just get eaten by mice. So it serves me better to get some of it in the dirt. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Now this blend I'm fixing to mix up might be foolish, but I don't care. It's how I learn. I do lots of foolish things and I learn lots of interesting stuff. That's white ladino clover, Austrian winter pea, red clover, vetch, timothy, perennial rye, and this one is a winter grazing rye that I now know should have gone in probably even in late summer. Probably the first heavy rains after summer into fall. I think that would have been good because I've planted it elsewhere, and if I could have got it established maybe September, but it's been dry the last few years lately. But it looks like a really promising crop if you have the right conditions and you get it in at the right time. It looks like a really promising crop for winter grazing. So I'm going to mix this up and throw it out and see what happens. The vetch and the winter pea are big seeds, and they're probably going to get picked off and eaten by critters, but whatever. I mean, what good is it doing me if I don't plant it? We've had some pretty hard rain, a few nights of pretty hard rain, and then some freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing. And what the rain's going to do is make little pockets where, like right here, there's a huge cluster of seed, too much to survive. In these little track ruts, wherever the water pooled and then settled, it left behind lots of seed deposit. And most of it will sprout on the surface and die whenever the sun comes out, I would say. Later on today, I should probably get the garden tractor going and put the roller behind it and just set my kid out here to do some laps. Maybe I'll take the clearance saw and knock off some of these little dinglies so that they don't rip up the belts or any of the piping on the underside of the mower. And that's probably good enough. I think that pushing some of this seed in will be sufficient to ensure that it puts a taproot in and establishes.